topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Florida. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the top experts for the last 16 years in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Hey, I hope everybody had a merry and blessed Christmas. Hey, this is the week, New Year's, and I want people, especially with this show, our expert coming up, I want people to make a New Year's resolution that they will contact attorney Debbie Baker, and we'll be giving you her phone number, and figure out your financial planning, your estate planning, because it's so important when it comes to wills. And, you know, we don't want you to have to pay all those high prices when it comes to probate. So you've been putting this off for a long time, and I want you to make a New Year's resolution, again, to contact attorney Debbie Baker, 813-586-1332. Let me welcome, this is definitely one of my favorites, attorney Debbie Baker.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for all that. I think that's a great idea.
Co-star.
And my co-star. And my co-star. Yes, he heard your voice, and here he is. Everybody, this is Pip. Pip comes to every one of these because he just likes being on camera. I've been telling people for the last couple of weeks, if they want to do something really nice for their family and they can do it and they can work it, just pay for their estate plan, so you take that excuse off the table that they can't afford it, or they don't have the money, or it's too expensive. And I would love everybody in Florida to call me. If you're outside of Florida, I can't help you. I was thinking, as Steve was saying, all those nice things about all the nightmares I've experienced, my clients have experienced in the last 2 weeks because somebody didn't do planning.
People keep putting it off, don't they?
They do. I had a young man. I was thinking this morning, do I call him a young man? Is that fair? Or just call him a man who's in his 20s? Anyway, this gentleman who's in his 20s, his mom called me 6 months ago to do some planning because she was ill, and then didn't call me back till 10 days before she died. And we got things done. But the poor guy, this poor guy, under all this stress, only child, no family members around, lives in St. Cloud, grandmother's in a hospital dying in Orlando, and mom's in a hospital dying in Tampa. And this poor guy is trying to pull things together. And it could have been done years ago. Mom could have just, not that she should have died. She was really young. She just turned 60. But her poor son wouldn't have been scrambling at the last minute to do something. And there's no time for somebody you love to die. It's never a good time. He lost his grandmother on the 15th and his mother on the 18th. I just cannot believe, I can't even begin to imagine what last week was like for him. Just can't begin to imagine. Estate planning is so important.
You last night, everybody's got a favorite aunt or favorite uncle. I have a favorite aunt. She lives in St. Louis, Missouri. And my sister called me up. And, she's like probably a young 80, but she's.
Mhm.
My sister tells me 2 days ago that they had to put her in a home because she's got Alzheimer's. And just like, what? I mean, this lively. And then last night she called me and told me she passed away. And the first thing, Debbie, I thought about was, I wonder if she had a plan. Because people think they can, they're never going to die. They're always going to be around.
Right.
And I wonder if she had, I mean, I'm not going to find out now, not the right time, but, we never know.
We never know. And it's a very interesting conversation for this time of year, whether it's right before Christmas or right after or right before New Year's. We all find time to do what we really want to do. And I think about that for myself. I'll find time to do what I really want to do. And then we often ignore the things that are much more essential than what I want to do. Because what we need to do is we need to have this stuff in place. So it's very legitimate that you wonder and you hope for her family's sake that she had everything in order. Because it's never fun. I mean, we've talked about it. To do an estate plan costs some small percentage of what probate costs. But it's the emotional energy that people expend. Now people in her family may have to start looking for documents. Did she have a will? Did she have this? Did she have that? It shouldn't be. It takes a lot of courage to get it done. It takes a lot of courage to talk to your family about it. I read something recently about sharing with your children all your financial information, or asking them at least if they want to know it, or at least want to know where it is, so that when something happens to you, if you're still living, they can execute powers of attorney or whatever. And if you're passed, they know where to find all those other documents. Our daughter has all our documents, but I don't know that she knows where to find everything. So one of the things this year is say to her, listen, do you want to come and spend a day, or do you want me to bring this stuff down? How do you want to know? Like, how do I let you know where everything is and who to call and that kind of thing? If you want to make a New Year's resolution that will help your family and really spare them grief later on, get that plan done, get it reviewed. I spoke to somebody yesterday. I said, do you have a plan? And she said, well, the military takes care of it. I said, okay. Yeah, and they do. I said, they update it every 3 years. And I said, well, that's good. I said, do you have children? And she said, yes, we have one. I said, grandchildren? She said, no. I said, okay. So what happens if your child predeceases you? She said, what do you mean? I said, well, what happens if he dies before you? She said, what do you mean? I said, well, you're leaving everything to him, right? And she said, yes. I said, well, what happens? She said, I don't know. We've never thought about it. I said, and that's one of those things that the Army won't do. The military doesn't do that kind of planning. So, I mean, it's just something to think about. Just what happens, because it happens sometimes. I was trying to think of what could we talk about like today that was like happy. And in the world of estate planning, I'm not sure. but other than that, it really is great peace of mind.
Debbie, if people think it's a long process and they don't want to go through that right now, how about baby steps? How about just getting a simple will done? I mean, that's
simple
a way
will. Even more important.
Start off.
Yeah, simple wills, which just name beneficiaries and who will handle your estate, and powers of attorney and healthcare directives. Married couples, you and I have talked about this before. Without you and Sophia having each other's healthcare directives, you can't help each other because you're not married. But spouses can talk to doctors automatically, but healthcare directives and powers of attorney for financial information, they're not that expensive, and they don't take a lot. They don't take a lot of time to do. Simple wills don't. None of those documents, the simple will or the power of attorney, don't take a lot of time to do. They're not terribly expensive. It's all a frame of reference. We've talked about that many times. In Florida, healthcare directives do not need a notary. They need 2 witnesses, but they do not need a notary. And I have provided, my mentor's not crazy about this, but I have provided the templates I use to people who need one right away. I said, listen, you can fill this out right away and get 2 witnesses and you have something valid. You don't need me. I don't charge for it, because it could be done without a notary. And then at least you've got something in place. But yes, even a simple will. So you've named somebody to manage your estate and you've named your beneficiaries. Yeah. And people think it's a very complicated process. It doesn't have to be.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question because I'm sure this is on some people's minds. What is your advice to people who say they want to do their own will?
I'm strongly opposed to it. I was talking to somebody about this recently, and they said you can download these things online. I said, well, I haven't run into it. Other colleagues of mine have. The challenge with doing something online that you download from the internet, whether it's LegalZoom or whatever, is you cannot be sure it's compliant, like that it follows all the rules of your particular state. And you run into a risk with that, because if it doesn't, then it says, thank you, whoever just said that in, or you, Steve, that if you do something online and when somebody needs to use that will, it hasn't been done sufficiently, you often will wind up in probate because you've effectively done something that leaves you what they call intestate, without a will. If you want to do anything complicated, like anything that would demand more than just a basic will, the online stuff doesn't do that. I have sent people, and this is available in all 50 states, to, I don't know whether they're called Prepaid Legal again or they're called Legal Shield. I'm not sure what they're called. But they're a membership in each state, and the attorneys, the firms that represent them are licensed attorneys in that state, and they do basic documents. They don't do trusts. They don't do asset protection planning, but they do basic documents compliant with that state. And I've had people who absolutely do not have any money to do anything beyond the basics. I said, listen, if you have to have it, call them and get there. So absolutely not do it yourself. Don't do it yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. Too much risk.
Somebody from the chat. Love your show. What does a trustee do?
Okay. So a trustee, gosh, I don't have my notes, but when somebody has a trust and they've passed, the trustee is the one who executes all the directions in the trust. So to our conversation about a simple, let's say Steve and Sophia have a trust, and they've said that their nieces and nephews get a certain percentage of their estate at certain ages. You cannot do that in a will. A will cannot say, don't give, Debbie money until she's 35. A will can't do that. There's no vehicle for that. A trust can do that. So it lays out how you want your estate distributed. Do you want it by ages and stages to, natural people, like to relatives or friends? Do you want it to go to charity? Do you want money allocated for somebody's high school graduation or college graduation? But the trustee is the one who does that. And they have a fiduciary responsibility to execute it exactly the way you say. So
how do you choose trustee?
Choose? Well,
how do you determine who should be your trustee?
Say again?
How do you determine who should be your trustee?
You need to find somebody that, not to overuse the word, that you're going to trust to do exactly what you say. Okay? Because I am sure there are trustees. I have one right now where the beneficiary of the trust is suing the current trustee for not doing her job. And she can
Wow.
demonstrate that this person has not been doing their job. It's a complex family situation, and the successor trustee is not seemingly not doing her job. So you want to choose somebody that when you say, I want you to distribute 20% to every one of my grandchildren when they reach 20% of their share when they reach the age of 30, is going to do it. Now, the trustee has the discretion if that person is having drug problems or alcohol, substance abuse problems, if they're having marital problems, if they're having criminal problems, the trustee has the discretion to hold that money. So they don't have to distribute it. So they have discretion if they don't think the recipient is in a position to get it, to hold it. But free of that they're going to do that. They're not going to make the 20-year-old to wait till they're 21 as the document. So you choose the person who you think and believe will do exactly what you want them to do. Trustees generally get, if they're not family members, you can compensate them. So I've had a number of people who have given them a percentage of the trust, like at the very beginning, or a certain amount of money at the very beginning, to compensate them for the fact that this thing goes on over years. It doesn't necessarily all get liquidated at once. But you have to choose somebody that you believe will do what you want. And that's how I would learn. A lot of people choose their children, but some people don't because they don't trust their children. People appoint banking institutions, financial institutions, to be the successor trustee. But I think it answers your question. It's got to be somebody you trust to do it.
Debbie, we do estate planning shows all over the United States. And I think one of the biggest questions, I don't know if I've ever shared this with you or not, but people wondering, what if they want to contest a will? What should those people consider?
Well, in Florida, you can't say in a will that if you contest my will, that you get disinherited. Can't do that in Florida. But when people think there was undue influence, that somebody really did exert influence on somebody, the thing they have to consider is, for me, my will would be, what's it going to cost you emotionally to contest this? That's one of the first things to consider, in my opinion. What's it going to cost you and your family emotionally to contest this will? The other thing you want to consider is it's going to cost money. Generally, estate planners, most of us work on a flat fee basis. So you're not paying for every time you call. If you're going to contest a will, somebody's going to take that. They're not going to take it on a contingency like personal injury. They're not going to do that. They're going to have you pay up front for them to do the work to contest the will. Do you have the financial wherewithal to do that? And I don't know if it's legal anywhere. It may be where, well, if the attorneys agree to take money when they win, that's okay. But what if they don't win? Who's going to pay their fees? Yeah. So I would say the first thing is, what's it worth to you emotionally? And people have said, I love my countdown. People have said, well, it's the principle. And I get that. I can get that. And there's a huge price to pay. Earlier this year, a woman called. She wanted to contest a will because I don't remember the exact reason. And this woman had been an infertility patient. She lost 3 babies. We're talking newly pregnant, like 4 to 6 weeks pregnant. And she wanted to contest this will. I said, are you really willing to? I don't handle it, and I can find somebody who will. Are you really willing to risk this pregnancy over this principle? Just something for you to think about. And I think she decided not to move forward. Maybe if she'd been talking about millions of dollars, maybe, but she wasn't. I mean, she was talking about money that might have made a difference, certainly, whether it was $1,000 or $10,000 or whatever. But it was the emotional risk. So that to me is what I say to people when they say, well, I want to contest a will. After I say I don't handle this, then I ask them, what price are they willing to pay, meaning emotionally, to make a point.
There is so much that people don't know about estate planning. That's why it's so important that you sit down, and I'm telling you, you're going to love Debbie. Trust me, her background, and she really loves helping people. That was like one of the first things 2 years ago I noticed with Debbie. She really has a heart for this. Debbie, tell people how they can reach you.
Sure. So Steve gave my phone number, but it's 813-586-1332, 813-586-1332. And my email is Deb Baker, that's 2 B's in the middle, at londonbakerlaw.com, London like the city. I talk to everybody. My consultations are always free. If you're from out of state, I'll be happy to talk to you generally because I don't know your state law. But I absolutely am here to serve. And it's all a walk of faith. And I've been doing it now for like 10 and a half years. And it's still pretty glorious. And we're out of time. How do we do that? Yes. I want my full half hour.
Your show goes by so fast. Well, we do it on a 25-minute basis. Listen, I want to wish you a happy new year.
Yeah, you too.
And I can't wait. You'll be back again with us next month. And we're so blessed to have you. That's all I can say.
Okay, I have one last request for you. This is so the public. I want you to send me a picture of Sophia because I don't believe she exists. And I want it with you and her. I want it with you and her, not just some, woman you say, Sophia. Yeah, anyway, that's my New Year's request. Okay. Rebel,
Happy New
feel
Year,
better.
Debbie.
Have a great New Year. See you next month.
We're going to go to break. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.